It was just another morning for Doris Miller. He arose from bed just before 6 a.m. He put on his perfectly pressed navy uniform, slipped on his shiny leather shoes, adjusted his sailor's cap, and threaded his scarf through the collar of his shirt, finishing with a perfectly tied bow that hit on the sternum of his chest. The date was December 7, 1941. Doris Miller, or Dory, as he would later become known, was born October 12, 1919 in Waco, Texas. He was the third of 4 sons. Miller managed to keep a calm mind and a soft spirit even in the midst of being a black child in a segregated America. He was a very hard worker. He did more than his fair share of working on the family farm. He helped clean the home, he did the laundry, and completed the daily chores that goes along with maintaining a farm. Even though Doris was a student of color, he excelled athletically and earned a starting role as fullback on his high school football team. His family struggled financially, so at the age of 17 he dropped out of school and enlisted with the United States Navy. He thought it would be great to serve his country, travel the world, and send money to his parents whenever possible. Even in the military, people of color were not treated as equal among the white sailors. They couldn't hold such prestigious positions such as pilot or combat operations. They took maintenance, cleaning, and cooking type jobs. Doris held all different sorts of lower tier type jobs after enlistment and was eventually elevated to cook 3rd class and appointed to the USS West Virginia. Doris took pride in what he did. He was happy to settle. He wouldn't get down on himself for not being able to hold positions of higher rank. It was difficult at times to work on a ship with him being over 200 pounds and standing at 6 feet 3 inches tall, but he didn't let it get to him. He maintained a joyous attitude, and a smile was always plastered on his face. He enjoyed being in the kitchen, crafting, experimenting with new meal creations. He often would reminisce about being home making home-cooked meals for his family back at the farm. The routine stayed the same day in and day out, but on December 7, 1941, that routine would be drastically different. Doris took one last look in the mirror to make sure his uniform was up to code and headed out the door around 6 a.m. He would arrive to the kitchen shortly after. His morning began like all others, preparing the food that was made up the evening before. At around 6:45, the dining hall was flooded with sailors eating their morning breakfast. And after breakfast, each morning Doris would make his way to the mess hall and gather laundry. He then arrived at the laundry room and began washing. Over the hum of the washer, a loud explosion occurred, and the vessel shook violently. Doris had to quickly balance his weight to avoid falling down, and as Doris gained his footing, this is what he heard. Doris quickly made his way from below deck to the ship's bridge and saw a devastating sight. He saw the Japanese fighter planes attacking the naval forces and everything in sight quickly becoming engulfed in flames. He ran to the ship's anti-aircraft station only to find it shattered and destroyed by a Japanese torpedo. Doris quickly looked for anything he could do to help. He saw many of his fellow Navy men severely injured. He knew he must get them to safety for them to have any chance at survival. So Doris carried 2 at a time through the oil and flame-filled waters to medical stations. He went back and forth, saving as many lives as he could. On one trip, he saw that the captain of the ship was injured. Doris tried to save him, but his efforts came up short. When Doris believed that he helped all that he could, he noticed an unattended .50 caliber anti-aircraft gun and began firing at the Japanese warplane. Although he had no previous training in operating the weapon, he managed to take down 4 Japanese aircraft. Once Miller ran out of ammunition, he was ordered to abandon ship. After the raid was over, the damage was devastating. 6 battleships sunk, 188 aircraft destroyed, and 2,403 brave men and women lost their lives that day. But if it wasn't for the heroism of Doris Miller, many more would have been lost. One commander of the ship later stated, "I saw no color that day, and I shall see no color going forward." On May 27, 1942, Admiral Chester Nimitz honored Doris Miller with the Navy Cross Award, and he was promoted to a first class. The Navy Cross Award is one of the highest honors given by the Navy. Doris gained the reputation and the name as the Hero Cook, and in the spring of 1943, Doris put the apron on once again, this time on the vessel Linscomb Bay. But sadly, at 5:10 a.m. on November 24th, the ship was hit by a single torpedo fired from a Japanese submarine. The torpedo was carrying a bomb. After it exploded, the ship sank within minutes. Only 242 men survived the attack, and unfortunately, Doris Miller wasn't one of them. In addition to receiving the Navy Cross Award, Miller received the Purple Heart, the American Defense Service Medal, the Pacific Campaign Medal, and the World War II Victory Medal. And in 1973, the Knox-class frigate was named the USS Miller. A man who wanted to simply provide for his family ended up being an American patriot and one of the many heroes who proudly served their country. A heart of gold is always gold, regardless of skin color.